going out to make sure that folks have the opportunity to revisit this training as well. Looks like Kyla just started recording, so thank you, Kyla. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump in. All right, can everyone see my slides? Awesome. So today we're going to be talking about food and mood for childcare staff. We're pretty excited to present this training today. We haven't done food and mood for staff before. We did a training for kids back in the fall. And so this is sort of a take two of that, recognizing that mental health in children and mental health in adults has become a topic of interest and is on the brains of all of us these days, and is getting a lot of attention in both in the media and in education. So here's a little agenda. We'll start out with a welcome and introductions. We'll talk a little bit about the food and mood connection and the science behind food and mood. Then we'll do a deeper dive into fruits and veggies, since that's our jam over here in Farm to EC and Heal, and talk about the connection of fruits and veggies to food and mood. We'll do a short activity, and then we'll have closing and time for questions. That said, if you do have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to use the chat box or to jump in, especially since we're a small group. We'd love for this to be as interactive a presentation as possible. All right, so we'll start with this slide. You've probably seen this before. We try to just remind you that we are also a small but mighty team called Child Health Promotion within the Family Health Division at Boulder County Public Health. And this just gives you a little perspective of all of the work that we do and how so much of our work is interrelated. And so many of the people that you're seeing at your childcare programs are teammates of ours. So we oversee Healthy Eating, Active Living, or HEAL. That is the work, the hard work of Tori and Kyla. Tori and Heather Elkins also are involved in our breastfeeding friendly initiatives. Kyla and Martha are our health and safety people. And Tori and Martha and myself do the Farm to ECE work. So now is your opportunity to tell us a little bit about you. So if you wouldn't mind using the chat box, type in your name, your email address, the name of your childcare program, and how you're feeling today. Either using one of these emojis or something else that pops into your brain. And just make sure that we get that contact information for you, because we'll be sending out certificates for professional development at the end of this training.
And you can also turn your camera on and make the face of how you're feeling if that strikes you as well.
I love that idea.
We'd love to see your face if you're available. We also realize these lunch meetings can sometimes be a multitasking. So we appreciate you participating in any capacity you're able to.
Kyla's having a party. So I'm seeing a little exhaustion, some happy, some okays. I'll give you another minute to share. Martha is bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. All right. So keep those introductions and emojis coming, and we'll keep going ourselves. So let's dive into the food and mood connection. And we'll start with the not so good news. I promise it will get better. So a few statistics for you. Depression and anxiety are two of the most common mental health disorders in the US. And I'm going to let that sink in for a second. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, 8.4% of US adults in the US had a major depressive episode in 2020, and 19.1% of adults reported an anxiety disorder in the past year. So I'm just going to get a little bit more in the weeds here. Major depressive episode, and I had to do some research here myself, is a period of 2 weeks or longer in which a person experiences certain symptoms of major depression, such as feelings of sadness and hopelessness, fatigue, weight gain, weight loss, changes in sleeping habits, loss of interest in activities, or thoughts of suicide. An anxiety disorder is defined as a type of mental health condition which is a response to certain things and situations with fear and dread. There might also be some physical signs of anxiety, such as pounding heart and sweating. So all of us, experience some feelings of depression or anxiety, but these are specifically relating to depressive episodes and anxiety disorders. So that said, we're going to take a little bit of time and just think about what we are talking about when it comes to this food and mood connection, and why food and mood is something that people are talking about these days. And I'm going to try and connect you to this video. I'm a terrible sharer when it comes to Teams and videos, but I'm going to try my best here. So if you can give me a thumbs up if you see a YouTube video right here on your screen. All right. And then another thumbs up if you can hear the sound.
Have you ever noticed yourself feeling grumpy when hunger strikes? The relationship between food and mood is complex and can be affected by many factors. Understanding this delicate relationship can help set you up for success in balancing both mood and dietary intake. It's normal to crave foods high in calories, sugar, and fat when stress or depression strikes. The obstacle here is that foods full of fat and sugar increase the likelihood of depression and anxiety. These foods, eaten in hopes that it will help you feel comfort, may in reality cause a negative cycle. These cravings don't have to be avoided at all costs, just balanced. In the same way that some foods can negatively impact mood, there are foods that can boost mood. First, fruits and vegetables. Studies show that increasing fruit and vegetable consumption can increase happiness, life satisfaction, and well-being. Second, omega-3 fatty acids. Low omega-3 fatty acids have been associated with several mood disorders, so it is important to keep omega-3 levels high. Omega-3s can be found in foods like fish, flaxseed, walnuts, and canola oil. Third, dark chocolate. Yep, you heard that right. Dark chocolate has properties that stimulate the brain and result in a good mood. Just remember, moderation is always important. Food choices can affect your mood, and your mood can affect your food choices. To help balance your mood, stick to a well-balanced diet that includes fruit and vegetables, omega-3 fatty acids, and even chocolate if you desire.
All right. So that hopefully just gave you a little bit of an overview as to the connection between food and mood. And now we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into those connections and some of the foods that were mentioned in that video. Are we back on the PowerPoint? Does everyone see the slides again? All right, awesome. Okay, so there's a lot going on in this figure. But the main takeaway is to remember that the relationship between dietary habits and mental health is multidirectional. So in other words, one's food can affect what and how much one eats, and one's dietary patterns can affect one's mood and psychological well-being. So what you eat can affect how you feel, and how you feel can affect what and how much you eat. And now let's talk a little bit more about some of those foods that were mentioned in the video that we just saw. I thought this was interesting. There have been 2 recent systematic reviews that reported that adhering to a healthy diet, in particular a traditional Mediterranean diet, and avoiding a pro-inflammatory diet protects against depression. And so maybe some of those statistics that we talked about earlier in terms of depression and anxiety could be positively influenced by changing our dietary habits. And I just wanted to remind you all that a Mediterranean diet is a diet that emphasizes plant-based foods and healthy fats, consists of lots of fruits, vegetables, beans, lentils, nuts, whole grains, plenty of extra virgin olive oil, a moderate amount of fish, cheese and yogurt, and has little or no meat or sweets or sugary drinks or butter. Whereas a pro-inflammatory diet is somewhat of the opposite. That includes a lot of red meat, processed meat, organ meat, refined carbohydrates such as white bread, white rice, desserts, sweetened beverages like colas and sports drinks. So we're going to focus on some of those foods that you might consider part of the Mediterranean diet. So proteins, these were some that were listed in the video that we just saw. And that consists of eggs, salmon, nuts, and seeds. So why is that? And what do these proteins actually do to our brains that boost mood? So we're going to go through all of these in a little bit more depth, just to make those connections to how some of these foods that were mentioned in that video can help boost mood. Eggs contain vitamins B6, B12, folic acid, and choline. And all of these nutrients help regulate mood, reduce depression, and improve memory. Salmon, just like the video said, and certain nuts contain omega-3 fatty acids, which increase blood flow, builds brain and nerve cells, and reduces memory loss. Other nuts also contain antioxidants and vitamin E, as well as some healthy fats, which help to improve memory and may protect against Alzheimer's disease and dementia. And seeds contain magnesium, zinc, copper, and iron, which improves memory and protects also against Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and depression. Whole grains, dark chocolate, and breast milk. Kyla, go ahead.
Do I have to remember which nuts do which things and which seeds, or can I just say, I'm going to add more nuts and seeds to my diet?
Yeah, good question. I would say overall, nuts and seeds in general are, have a lot of nutritional benefits for our bodies. So it's not necessary to specifically think about which nuts and seeds to eat. I think walnuts were mentioned in that video. I wouldn't, go down a rabbit hole of only eating walnuts. I would say nuts and seeds overall have, positive, are linked to positive health effects. So that's something that you should just kind of keep in the back of your brain. Does that answer your question?
Thank you. Yeah, that's too much work to try to remember which seeds do which things. So, I mean, it's interesting, but
right.
Practical.
Yeah, and a lot of this is, again, in the weeds, but I just thought it was interesting to present some of the actual nutrients that these foods have. That is the reason behind why they're good for our mental health.
Yeah, I like it. Thank you.
Whole grains contain vitamin E, which helps support cardiovascular health and blood flow in the brain. Dark chocolate contains flavonoids, stimulates blood flow in the brain, improves attention span, memory, and mood, and may slow age-related mental decline. And again, everything in moderation. So I don't know if some of you have seen some of the reports on dark chocolate containing some heavy metals. And so that's part of the reason why we want to make sure that we're eating things in moderation. Breast milk. So some interesting research on breast milk stimulates oxytocin release, which is the love hormone in moms, and decreases cortisol, which is the stress hormone in both moms and babies. It helps promote feelings of calm and peace, fostering positive attachment between mom and baby, while reducing stress and avoidance behavior amongst babies. Breastfeeding moms also display more positive mood, less stress, more effective emotional and are more effective emotionally in responding to others, which is more likely to positively influence their maternal behaviors. And last but not least, fruits and veggies. Again, just examples of some fruits and veggies. All fruits and veggies confer positive nutritional benefits as well as mental health benefits, but these are just some that have risen to the top in some of this research. Blueberries contain flavonoids and antioxidants, which help reduce inflammation and improve communication between brain cells to improve learning and short-term memory. Avocados contain monounsaturated fats, potassium, vitamin K, and folate, which reduce blood pressure and improve brain blood flow. Broccoli contains vitamin K, choline, antioxidants, and flavonoids, which improve memory and reasoning and regulate mood and protect against cell damage. And oranges contain vitamin C, which protect against cell damage and memory loss. So again, lots of fruits and veggies do these things, but these are some that you might commonly eat and feed your kiddos and are protective from a nutritional and a mental health perspective. All right. So with that, we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into fruits and veggies, and I'm going to turn it over to Tori.
All right, thanks, Heather. So fruits and veggies are the star of this presentation today, and so we're gonna talk a little bit more about them. All right, you can go ahead and go to the next slide, Heather. Or am I able to? If I'm able to change slides, I can do that too. Let me see.
You can try, but
I don't think I can.
Did that work?
Okay, it did not work, so I'll just ask you to advance them. So these are two logos for campaigns that you may or may not have seen over the years. In the 90s, it was the Eat 5 a Day for Better Health campaign. And so both of these were aimed at increasing fruit and vegetable consumption, which is has never been as high as recommendations would like us to be. The Fruit and Veggies More Matter campaign came out in 2007, and basically the nutrition researchers found that 5 a day was not enough. 5 fruits and vegetables a day was not enough, and so that's when they launched the Fruits and Veggies More Matters, encouraging us to eat even more than 5 a day. And so what research has found to receive as many health benefits as possible is that it may take up to anywhere from 7 to 13 cups of fruits and veggies and produce every day to receive the health benefits. And so by saying more matters, we're not setting a number to it, and instead we're just encouraged to eat more, which is kind of unusual, right, for most nutrition recommendations, which focus on eating less of things or limiting things. And so for fruits and veggies, what we can say is just eat more of them, and that there isn't, necessarily that cap that you want to give yourself. And so these campaigns, they spent $3 to $5 million on them. And you can go to the next slide, Heather. What they found is that, unfortunately, the consumption of fruits and veggies didn't increase a whole lot. So the campaigns didn't work. People heard about it, but it didn't necessarily impact fruit and veggie consumption. So maybe if they would have had more money and more ability to promote them, it would have had a better effect. But anyways, what we find is that only 1 in 10 adults get enough fruits and veggies. And then we also see equity affecting this, or disparities. So we see that men, younger adults, and people living in poverty get the fewest fruits and veggies. All right, we can go to the next slide. And so just digging in a little deeper, what we see, so this chart has a lot of information in it, but basically what we're seeing is that the fruits and veggies, whole grains, and seafood are lower than recommendations. And so those were all of the foods that Heather just mentioned to have that food and mood connection. And so what we are seeing that are at or above the recommendation are the refined grains, which again in the video we saw can kind of continue that cycle of depression and anxiety, eating more of like the high fat, high sugar, refined grain foods. And so that is the one bar that is above the recommended amount. The most is refined grains and total grains. And so we see the ones that are further below are really our vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and seafood. So we have lots of improvement to make. And I see that Kyla put in or asked a question in the chat, what to do if you don't like seafood. And that's a great question. And so there are definitely ways that we can get our omega-3s, which are what we're trying to get from seafood. And so seaweed would be an option, or there's also, you can take omega-3 supplements. Heather, did you have anything to add to that? And then we did also, we learned that like the nuts and seeds can be sources of our omega-3s as well. So those would be like the top things to replace seafood if you're not able to. And then I would also say that there are, since there's so many different types of seafood, you could, if it's the taste you don't like, maybe you could find varieties that are like really mild in flavor. So lots of fish has a very mild flavor versus maybe some of seafood that can have really strong flavor. All right, so this next table shows us how many servings are recommended per age group. And so this includes toddlers all the way up to 60 plus. And so all different ages and recommendations for fruit. And these are the USDA My Plate recommendations. And it's for daily, how much to consume each day. And then this is created by, again, USDA and the Nutrition Policy and Promotion. And it's based on the dietary guidelines for Americans. And so if we focus in on the section that's circled on this graph, we see for fruit, anywhere from 1.5 to 2 cups or 2.5 cups, based on what age you are, whether you're male or female. Okay, next slide. And so this one shows us how many servings of veggies each day are recommended. And then it's slightly higher for vegetables. So it's, if we look at men and women from 19 to 60 plus, we see anywhere from 2.5 to 3.5 cups based on what age you are. And then thinking a little bit more about what is a serving. So we know that we can eat fruit and vegetables in various forms, whether it be fresh, canned, frozen, dried, and as a juice. And so the serving looks a little bit different based on what form that fruit or vegetable is in. And so we think about a serving if we're eating an apple. We also know like eating fresh produce can really vary in sizes, and just like a lot of our food has increased in size, it seems like even our produce has increased in size. So if we think about an apple being about the size of our fist, that would be a serving of an apple. And so if it's a really large apple, you potentially it would be like a half of that to get a serving. But something again like a average size banana would be a serving of fruit. And then when we think of opening up a can of fruits or veggies, to get a serving, it would be half of a cup. And this is again for us as adults. So we're not talking child's portions right now. We're talking adults. And then if you're eating dried fruit, since the water is removed, it's going to be a 1/4 cup for a serving. And then fruit juice, a 1/4 cup as well. Our leafy green vegetables, which are going to have a lot of air in them when they're say fresh and in a bowl, you would eat a whole cup to have a serving of like a salad. And then when we have our fresh, frozen, or canned veggies, it's going to be a 1/2 cup, just like fruit, to be a serving, and vegetable juice would be a 1/2 cup for a serving. And all of these, again, are based on the average daily calorie intake of about 2,000 calories, which is typical for an adult. Okay, so we're gonna ask you all to participate here in case you were getting distracted or if I was losing you. So we want you to think about, are you eating enough fruits and veggies? Or just let's think about our day, do a little recall. And so we're only halfway through our day today, but hopefully you've had a chance to have maybe breakfast, a morning meal of some sort, and then lunch by now. And so, or maybe you're eating it as we speak. So if you want to either do a recall just in your mind, or you want to write it down, but making a list or thinking about the fruits you've eaten so far today. And so remember that it can include fresh, frozen, canned, dried. Maybe you made a smoothie, so it could be something like that. And then based on the information I just gave you about like serving sizes, think about how many servings you've had or the number of cups you've had.
And I can go back to that serving size chart so that people have that as a reference.
I have a lot to say about this, but here's a first question, Tori. When you're looking at cooked vegetables versus raw vegetables, is the serving size different?
That's a good question. So yeah, so this, some of these examples, so like raw leafy vegetables, obviously that is uncooked. And yeah, there's a big change that happens, right? If you take, like, if anyone's ever, the other week I chopped up a head of bok choy and put it into a saute pan, and it's like, it's overflowing at the start and heaped, and then once it cooks down, it's like such a smaller amount. So yeah, definitely the serving size changes. And so you're gonna measure it when it's fresh, frozen, or canned for the serving size. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the way somewhere that I saw this, I don't remember where, that when I'm trying to count my serving sizes, is that 1 cup of fresh or raw, I guess, is a serving size, and a 1/2 cup of cooked is a serving size because that's how much water you lose. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So say if you were going to eat that bok choy raw, it would be a cup to make your serving. And then if I was going to count, maybe I'm going to count it after I cook it, then it would be that half a cup that's been sauteed. All right. Any other questions about serving sizes? I know that, yeah, that they can be tricky to think about. We are going to give you some, you know, if you're not someone that likes to measure and count, maybe some just like simpler ways to think about this as well. Because we're not all people who like to, you know, track it in a diary, food diary, or through an app, or that way. And so if anyone feels like they want to share out, happy to have you tell us about your day so far.
I can share, but I can also let someone else go first if someone else wants to talk besides me. I'm a talker.
Lead us off, Kyla.
Okay. Well, for breakfast, I had yogurt and granola with 3 big strawberries that were all chopped up in my breakfast. So that, I think I counted it, it was like 1 cup of fruit, maybe a little more. And then I just had a salad that had like 2 cups of light leafy greens and about 2 cups of just chopped up raw vegetables. So I think I got like 1, 2, 3, like 4 or 5 servings so far today. And
awesome.
I always thought that I got plenty of fruits and vegetables until I started doing these presentations with Tori, and then I started tracking what I actually would eat. And I was getting probably about 4 servings a day on an average day. And since I've been tracking it, I think I'm up closer to like 6 a day as an average. So paying attention can change things for you. And then there was one little trick that I saw also when I was looking all this up is a 1, 2, 3 system. So having 1 serving of produce for breakfast, 2 servings at lunch, and 3 for dinner and snacks will get you a total of 6 for a day. So that's one way to like think about how to make it happen, maybe a little easier than like measuring everything out and tracking it in an app or on a food journal or whatever. Although if anyone wants the app recommendation, I have that too.
So now I have a follow-up question for you, Kyla. Since you've started tracking more of your fruit and veggie consumption, and you find yourself eating more of those, have you noticed any discernible difference in your mood?
Of course, I feel fantastic all the time. I would say I feel more, I feel like I experience the negative consequences of not eating enough or eating, you know, refined foods. Like that's more obvious to me in my body that I don't feel good because I didn't get enough vegetables. Not so much that I feel great because I did have vegetables, although I'm sure it's connected.
Yeah, I just thought I would follow up with a question that relates to, you know, what we're talking about. And I'm curious to know if anyone else feels similarly, because I think similar to Kyla, I think I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. And then when I actually sit down to track it, I feel like I don't eat as many as I do. And I don't know, or as I think I do. And I don't know that there's any connection that I can make about the amount of fruit or vegetables that I eat and how I feel, but I can tell that I feel generally better when I'm not eating other refined grains or things that the fruits and vegetables are taking the place of. Anyone else want to tell us a little bit about their day so far?
We have a couple things in the chat. So Ren does intermittent fasting, so she doesn't have breakfast, but she did have about 1.5 cups of carrots with lunch, and she's planning to have some fruit and vegetables for dinner and an afternoon snack. Which sounds fantastic. And then Martha says she's been drinking a lot of juice lately, or she's realized that she's been drinking too much juice because only 1/4 cup is 1 serving. And she's really thirsty in the summer. I need to dilute my juices with water and make water more fun. Any tips?
Yeah, Martha, I think I guess some of the things we've shared with our heal trainings over the years have been like adding different like herbs, like mint to water, or vegetables like cucumbers to water to give it flavor. You can also make like agua fresca with adding some fruit or like a little fruit puree to it to give it like that little hint of sweetness. I believe Heather has an awesome farm to ECE recipe called lemon balmade. So that's adding lemon balm. Um, and then bubble water. I see that Ren just put in herbal teas, Tazo's passion tea, Bengal spice, yes, from Celestial Seasoning. So yeah, lots of herbal teas and making like an iced tea in the summer when it's hot out. So yes, all good ideas. I'm a tea in the afternoon person, and I feel like it's just recently when it's been hot, I'm like, oh man, I might have to switch from hot tea to an iced tea.
And Martha, it's a great way to use up your, well, everybody, but to use up your like odds and ends of fruits and vegetables to make it your kitchen a slightly more zero waste is putting those little bits of strawberries or little bits of cucumbers that you weren't going to eat otherwise.
All right, and so if you didn't already, you can repeat this for thinking about the veggies you've eaten today. Yeah, I'm definitely doing this exercise myself. I haven't had lunch yet today, but I'm gonna have a big veggie salad in order to get some servings because my day has been low so far. All right, if anyone else wants to share, we'd be happy to hear more from you. Otherwise, I guess, Heather, we can move on to our next slide. And so Kyla should have been doing this presentation with us because this is one of our other strategies on how to eat more fruits and veggies. So the 1, 2, 3 method was one of the ideas we were going to share with you. So as Kyla mentioned, trying to get 1 with breakfast, 2 with lunch, and 3 with dinner is one idea. And that takes you up to, yeah, like Kyla mentioned, 6 a day. Another way is thinking about my plate and making half your plate fruits and veggies. So that would be including a fruit and a veggie every time you were having a meal. I like to also think about, including it with a snack as well. Trying to include a fruit or a veggie with a snack. So basically, anytime maybe you're having like a meal or a snack, making sure there's a fruit or a veggie. It's going to be a good way to get your servings. And then we talked about like doing a food diary, an app, if you're better with like kind of tracking that way. Through the culture of health trainings that we do with Heal, we really talk a lot about, thinking about like your meetings and if you have like staff trainings, things like that, being sure to include fruits and veggies as a part of those meals. And anytime, writing in that policy, like, so anytime you have events, making sure that those are a part of them. At Public Health, we have a healthy meeting policy, and so that just includes, that there be something healthy, fruit or veggie, as part of anytime like food is served for meetings. So that's one way to kind of, again, incorporate it into your policy and adopting that culture of health for your organization. And then we would love if you share out any ideas that we haven't mentioned so far. Thing maybe you do either in your home or at your childcare program.
I just say that, the big green salad is always a way to get a whole bunch of vegetables, but also smoothies can really jump up your account as well. And I think one area where I struggle is like that afternoon snack. I want crackers, crackers or chips or something salty, but if I, grab an apple instead, then that usually helps and also adds another serving to my day. All right,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say on the sort of snacking theme, I think we've seen recently a lot of interesting, innovative snacks made with fruits and veggies that are on the saltier side. So I love the idea of grabbing an apple instead of the chips. But then there are also, the kale chips that you can make that we've seen a lot of you make with your children in the classroom as a means of promoting, something like kale to your kids, which um, isn't super digestible in its raw form, but when you transform it into this amazing, salty, delicious kale chip, it becomes a lot more palatable to your kiddos. Then there are those, chickpea crunchy snacks that I've seen in the supermarket. We make a lot at home also. So adding just a little bit of olive oil to some chickpeas, tossing them with some salt and putting them in the oven for a few minutes, and you have this delicious salty snack, which is made from beans. So I think, a lot of you think really innovatively with your kids to try and get them to eat more fruits and veggies. And so these are also some great ideas for you too, and for myself, thinking about those afternoon cravings when I'm trying to feed myself more fruits and veggies as well.
So Susan says that she studied the energy of food. So if it's spring, you eat stir fries and root vegetables baked in the winter, for example. I think that's great. Like it's cooking or eating and cooking what's already in season. First of all, it tastes better, right? And then there is something about what your body craves, I think. And then Martha says for suppers and dinners, she tries to include one cooked and one fresh vegetable to increase veggie intake. And I'll just say the one thing I do at home with my kids is when I'm making dinner, I always put out, not always, I usually put out like a plate full of chopped, just cut carrots, cucumbers, tomatoes, snap peas, whatever's in season, whatever I have, so that's kind of like their appetizer plate. So before dinner. And so that's how they usually get most of their veggies, is that way, which may not be what Tori would recommend as far as family style dining, but how I get them to eat it.
I mean, we have to do what works. And I think, a lot of times I feel like, especially with dinner and, schedules, like getting home and getting it making dinner with the kids there, and they might be very hungry, getting hangry. So I think putting out, something like veggies is a great way to not spoil their appetite, or, have a healthy option so that you're not reaching meltdowns and tantrums. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for all the ideas and thoughts. I think, Susan, thinking seasonally is always a great idea and way to keep being inspired with eating veggies, right? If we can have that variety and have things that taste especially good because they're grown locally and fresh, that's a great way to think about it. And so we like to always add this to our conversation, that it's always, it's more than just food, putting it in your mouth, chewing and swallowing it. We know that food is wrapped up so much in culture. It's a social part of our life. It's an economic part of our life. And so nutrients may not be the only way that food impacts mood. There's social context, thinking about who and where our food is eaten, do we have access to health, fresh foods? How close is a grocery store? Thinking about culturally, like we all have food memories, and how that impacts, our choices and what we eat. And so we have to often look beyond nutritional factors, and give more attention to like the cultural, social, economic impacts and identity of our diet. And so we also want to think about, as I mentioned, policy and how that can affect our food choices. And so, as part of public health, we can think about incorporating it into our policies in order to improve mental health and our overall health and diet. So many like public health strategies would include incorporating school policies to ensure that good quality nutrition is available to all people. We also know that, something like gardening, which you all do if you're a part of the Farm to ECE program, there's actually been studies now showing that those who start a garden and eat the produce from their garden, they eat more fiber, you get more physical activity, and you have reduced stress and anxiety from being in nature, being in the garden, and then eating that healthy food. There's also studies showing that social eaters report a greater quality of life. They engage more frequently with community and have a wider circle of close friends. And then that eating alone is associated with lower mood on the flip side of that. So eating together is generally seen as beneficial to our health. All right. And then where can I learn more? So we've talked about a lot of different studies and research. So some things that we would recommend checking out to start with if you're interested in learning more. There is something called the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and they have a program called Food and Mood Project, and Heather has served on that project, and she can tell us a little bit more about it. There's also some publications. So there's the Harvard Health Publishing makes the Food and Mood, Is There a Connection, which is seen in the lower left corner there. There's a book called This Is Your Brain on Food that comes highly recommended. And then the one on the right there is from Ag Daily, it's an article, The Positive Effects of Gardening on Mental Health.
And
so
we can send, oh, sorry, go ahead, Tori.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we'll send these links out so that you can start to do a little digging on your own. It's just a good place to get some additional information about food and mood and the connections between mental health and nutrition. And there are so many resources out there, but we wanted to give you a few to get started if you're interested in learning more.
I would just say it's really fascinating that this project is sponsored by SAMHSA, because that's like a substance abuse organization. So looking at how food can help people recover or prevent substance abuse, that's fascinating.
Yeah, and the focus of that work has been mainly on K through 12 kids, but there are so many resources in there that talk to, this food and mood connection, and like Kyla was referring to, sort of some preventative measures for preventing substance abuse and treating substance abuse using food and food as medicine. So it's a really fascinating project that SAMHSA has been working on, and they've been partnering with the USDA in the Mountain Plains region. So the work has been going on for a couple of years now, and we've been trying to make some connections between food and mood and early childhood and early care providers. So that's where the work that I've been involved with has gone. So it's been a really neat project, and I've learned so much over the course of the past few months.
All right. And then we also wanted to provide some resources about, since we did, talk a little bit about depression and anxiety. And so we know like that mental health cannot be addressed alone by changing your diet necessarily. And so thinking about where you can get help if you're needing more assistance with your mental health. So Naropa Community Counseling, we have a partnership with them. Many of you may have heard of the offer to receive 9 sessions of counseling with the therapist at Naropa Community Counseling, and that's free for childcare providers. There is a wait list right now, I believe, and so please refer anyone to us for that. And then they also have a sliding scale. And so if the free counseling isn't available, they have an amazing sliding scale. Mental health partners, their website is listed there. Safe to Tell, the mental health hotline, Colorado Crisis Services, Text to Talk, Colorado Wellness Recovery, and then Centennial Peaks Hospital. So we can send out these links and resources. It might be something nice to have available for your staff. Lots of organizations to reach out to with mental health concerns and needs. These are our contacts. And we always like to thank our partners for all the work that we do in child health promotion. It couldn't be done without our partners. And we have 5 minutes for questions. So thank you all for joining us, and please, we're happy to stay if you have some questions.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple people that I don't have their full name or email address or school. So if you didn't do that earlier on, please let me know who you are so that we can get back to you.
And I did want to mention one other resource that is great for recipes on fruits and veggies. So it's just fruitsandveggies.org, and it has amazing recipes to make with fruits and vegetables. And if you have an interest in more fruit and veggie recipes, obviously our Farm to ECE, we've compiled quite a compilation of recipes through that program. But we have other websites to recommend as well if you're ever needing fruit and vegetable recipes. Thanks for putting that in the chat, Kyla. Thanks, Mary. I know we all can have room to improve, right? It's I think I've said in Heal before that it's when you think about, it's something that you constantly have to think about, I think, with what you're choosing to eat and eating those fruits and veggies. It's yeah, we have to continually be thinking about it, and whether it be like packing a lunch for ourselves, or it's something that takes time, it takes thought and effort. So I agree with Mary.
I just saw a recipe on fruit and veg. It's blueberry and pecan stuffed sweet potatoes.
Ooh, yum.
Like, doesn't that sound amazing? Okay.
Yeah, it's just like a beautiful website too. They have such awesome pictures, colors. Kyla, did you stop the recording?
No, because I'm distracted by this website. Okay, I'm stopping recording.